So I, I struggle with something in terms of figuring out how much we should teach sort of aspirational stuff versus who we actually are. And the reason why I'm thinking about this at this moment is my kids are at Take Your Kid to Work Day, which is kind of a really interesting phenomenon where, at least in North America, your kids are allowed to go to work one day of the year with you. And the reason why I'm struggling with this is because on one hand it's really nice because you get to see where your parents work and what they're doing and get to understand what work is. But then on the other hand, it sometimes may perpetuate already existing biases that exist. So for example, somebody that is working at a much lower paid job, then their kids might understand that is what work is about. And I'm not sort of diminishing it in any sort of way. I'm just sort of thinking about systematic biases that exist, and there truly are systematic biases that exist, right? We know that. That's not necessarily a big surprise. So that sort of perpetuates some of these systematic biases because the ultra high net worth individuals have bring their kids to work, and then they get exposed to that versus other people don't have that opportunity and what that actually looks like. And so you end up perpetuating biases that exist versus a different method of being aspirational in the classroom, where you bring in people from different walks of life that could be aspirational within the particular classroom. So with me and my family, my kids laugh because, Take Your Kids to Work Day is incredibly boring because, my job as a professor is like really boring. I just stare at a screen the whole day. Or, sometimes I'll work from home. And so it could be, that was a running joke for the last few years, is that they're always getting Take Your Kid to Work Day. But, not everybody has those kind of particular opportunities, and we should acknowledge them. And I think it would be better if we were to randomize within the classroom so that everybody gets exposed to all kinds of work versus looking at the existing sort of jobs that everybody has, because these things are incredibly hereditary, not in the sense that they are genetically hereditary, but you tend to take the occupation of what your parents did. That's like that's sociology 101, right? So we need to acknowledge that this exists and then figure out a way to minimize these particular biases. In one way, I would suggest, is to have some sort of random assignment. So, parents volunteer in the classroom that they're going to do Take Your Kids to Work Day, and then they are randomly assigned somebody's kid. And so that everybody gets exposed to all different kinds of work, right? It's actually a really good thing. So I would be... I think it's an amazing thing if my kids got exposed to manual labor like I did when I was a kid, right? Like if I was, taken to a farm, for instance, or if my kids were taken to a farm and they learned to see what somebody does there, I think that would be extremely helpful for them. But when they see what already exists, it doesn't really broaden their horizons in any sort of way. So and I don't know how to say this in kind of a nice way. I don't, my family is already doing quite well. And I want them just to be exposed to all sorts of different kinds of backgrounds, because it does matter. It sort of does matter to have people understand that not everybody has the same sort of work environment. Like, some people have to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think that'd be fantastic if my kids were, working at a fast food restaurant at 6 o'clock in the morning. I think that would be extremely helpful for them. But the way that it's sort of set up, it's set up to be somewhat, it perpetuates existing biases. So that's the reason why I struggle with this, is that it is not removing some of those biases, in fact, probably actually making them far worse. The reason, and growing up, I could give you an example of that. Growing up, I didn't know anything different, and I just wanted to work in the pulp and paper mill that my dad worked. And when I went to university, I was exposed to all sorts of different career paths I didn't even know existed. I had no clue. One of them was actuarial science. It was like I never even heard of that. It wasn't even inside my realm of like, what is that thing? That's weird. Like being exposed to a large number of careers is actually beneficial for everybody to have, no matter where you are. And so I would just recommend that we think about this a little bit more. Not necessarily, it's not going to change anytime soon. It's like the time change, right? Like time change has been around forever and it doesn't do anything. And maybe so it's 2022 and there was some voting in the US government towards getting rid of it. But these things just perpetuate for a long time. It's become sort of venerated. So it's hard to remove that from society or change that. So it's a great effort. It's wonderful. I'm not complaining about it, but I worry about the sort of biases that it might actually create going forward. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.